I had a way then, losing it all on my own. I had a heart then, but
Hey guys, Husky-Flies back here with another quick video. This will be the continuation of the Litchi tutorial series. I believe we are on 5-2, which is going to be about performing a waypoint mission on your smart device. Before we start though, there are a couple things I'd like to get out of the way. Namely, number one, just a quick disclaimer, Litchi and the development staff of Litchi and the manual are always going to have the most recent information on this application. And I am not responsible if your drone falls out of the sky for using Litchi. With that out of the way very quickly. Number two, I wanted to say, prior I had made a video 4-1 of the Litchi tutorial series, which is on doing waypoints on your computer rather than your smart device. I would very much advise anyone who's watching this and hasn't seen that to watch it, because it has lots of tips and stuff, safety tips and stuff like that in it that sort of applies to both devices. I try to do things on the computer if I can help it, if I have the foresight to know that I'm going to be flying somewhere, because I just find it to be easier and more accurate. With both of those things out of the way, I am going to go ahead and hop right in. So you can see we're sitting at the FPV screen of Litchi. I'm not currently connected to a quad since I'm just going to be setting things up and we'll be flying it a bit later. So I'm inside right now on my tablet. For those who are curious, I'm using the NVIDIA Shield K1 to demonstrate this today. So in the upper left here, I'm going to tap the mode toggle switch and we are going to hit waypoints, just one from the left right there. And you will see my location. I'm actually inside this trailer right here, but close enough. So this is the menu for setting up waypoints on your smart device. I just wanted to really quickly go over the icons here. So at that top left sort of button, you can see a folder icon. If you hit that, it allows you to load flights. Now, something I'd like to point out is if you go over here to the mode toggle switch, you can see all the way on the right side there's a login. I believe you can use Facebook to log in, but if you log into this, as well as log into the site that you use to make waypoints on your computer, it will sync both of them, assuming they're both connected to data. They will both sync up. So what you can do is you can obviously make a waypoint on your computer, go here, and you'll have it on your smart device to open up. The second one down is to save your current flight. So we will save this flight after we're done with it, so I'll get to that in a minute. The third down on the left side is your settings. So this is your overall mission settings. Just as an off example, heading mode allows you to control the way the quad's going to behave when it reaches a waypoint. So with it selected how it is, its heading is going to be pointing towards the next waypoint that it's traveling to. So it's going to be flying forwards towards it. You can set it to initial direction, so the direction that it starts in whenever you start the waypoint mission is the heading it will stay on. You can set it to user controlled, which is kind of neat. So as it's actually going through the waypoints, you can sort of rotate the quad as you see fit and control the gimbal and the camera to sort of get the shots you want as the quad flies itself. And the last one is waypoint defined, which allows you to set the heading at every waypoint. You have your finish action just below that. This is telling your quad what it's going to do whenever it's done with the waypoint mission. So you can tell it to do nothing, which basically it'll hover. You can tell it to return to home. You can tell it to land. You can tell it to go back to the first waypoint. Or you can tell it to run the waypoint mission in reverse. So it will go back from the last waypoint back to the first, but it will go through all the waypoints in between as well. This path mode will be curved turns or straight lines. I will go more into that in a moment. Here you have your cruising speed, which you can set up as you wish, and I will again get into that in a moment as to what that means. You have your max flight speed right below that. Default curve size, again I'll get into that in a moment. Then you have default gimbal pitch mode. You can set this to disabled. You can set it to focus a specific point of interest, or you can set it to interpolate, which the latter of which was explained in 4-1. Some of these settings can also be set on a per waypoint basis, so you don't absolutely have to go into this menu if you don't want to. Then you have rotations direction, which can be set to manual or managed. Just below that, you see a play button. That's what you're going to use when you actually start the waypoint. If I try it now, it'll say, there's no GPS lock, make sure the aircraft is connected. But I will get into that and show you what it does whenever you're about to actually start the mission. Just below that is the return to home. So if at any point during the mission you just want it to come back and quit, you can hit that and hit OK. Moving on to the upper left side, which has other new icons. That first one all the way on the upper left will allow you to switch between waypoints and points of interest. So let me just show you here. When it's white like that, if I tap my finger somewhere on the screen, I'm going to drop a waypoint. If I tap that button, it'll turn blue, and if I tap my finger on the screen again, I'm going to drop a point of interest. You can actually see that the quad has already turned towards the point of interest now that I've dropped it. So that is what that first button does. This little wrench icon has a couple of functions in it. Number one, you can see there at the top of the little pencil, allows you to basically draw out your waypoints instead of placing each of them individually. So if I was to just draw, and we'll go over here, go around here and through here, and then we'll go back over here, and I let my finger off after I'm done drawing. I can do some basic setup with this stuff, like altitude, cruising speed, all of that. But when I'm done, I'll go ahead and hit OK. And as you can see, it has put waypoints in exactly as I drew them out. That second icon beneath the wrench menu, when it's been expanded out, allows you to basically mass edit or mass delete your waypoints. So if I hit that right there, I can say cancel, select all, edit, or delete. If I go ahead and hit select all, you can see it's now selected all of my waypoints on the screen. And I can hit edit and alter some options in here for them. So you basically don't have to go through each one of them one at a time if, say, you made a mistake and want the waypoint mission to run at a higher altitude or something like that. Next to that, you can see delete. So I hit select all and I hit delete. Say batch delete, delete selected waypoints, hit OK, and you've cleared out your waypoint mission. That little X next to the wrench icon is also a button for clearing out your waypoint mission. So if I were to just put down a few waypoints here and then hit that, it's going to say clear all, hit OK, and it clears out the waypoint mission. That next icon next to the X up there allows you to swap the map between always pointing north and pointing in the direction of your smart device. But if you've got a good smart device with a decent compass on it, that can actually come in handy. The little crosshair symbol up there all the way in the upper right will attempt to center the camera on your drone. It's just kind of going to zoom out and not know what to do because we're not actually connected to the drone. The drone isn't powered on at the moment. So that is all the icons that are introduced with the waypoint mode of Litchi. Now something to keep in mind, which was also mentioned in the 4-1 video, but I'll just really quickly skim over it again. If we're at 98 feet here, and we know there are trees over here, we go over here and we change this to, we'll say, 583 feet. I would never fly that high, but whatever. There's no guarantee that from waypoint 1 to waypoint 2 the quad is going to be able to raise its altitude enough to cross over the edge of those trees. So it's always best to err on the side of caution and set your altitude high enough to begin with that you know you're not going to crash into any obstacles. So just something really quick I figured I'd mention. If you wish to delete anything in your waypoint mission at any given time, you simply tap it again. So I'll tap this point of interest, and you can see in the upper left there is a little red sort of dash. You go up there and hit that, it's going to delete your point of interest. Same thing with the waypoints. We simply tap it, hit that, and our waypoint is gone now. So something else I wanted to go over is the actual meaning of the symbols used in these waypoints. So you have that purple teardrop there with the number 1 in the middle. That means it's your first waypoint. It's literally all that means. Below that, however, you have a blue triangle. That triangle is showing the heading that your quad is going to take as it goes to that waypoint. Basically the heading it's going to be at when it's at that waypoint. Above both of those, you can see a cloud with a number in it. That's a really quick way to tell what altitude it will be at for the waypoint. It's also a good time to show you guys, if you remember earlier in the settings over here, we had this path mode and we have either curved turns or straight lines. I'm going to show you what the curved turns does right now. So we've got a mission set up here with waypoints 1, 2, and 3. You see this blue line here? That is actually the path that the quadcopter is going to take. It's not going to actually hit waypoint 2. It's going to kind of curve in that corner there as opposed to traveling a rigid path across the waypoint mission. This helps to smooth out your footage. There are some functions that are only accessible with straight lines and not curved paths, and I go a bit more in depth into those in my earlier 4-1 waypoint mission video. Okay, so that's curved paths and straight lines. Next, I wanted to talk about our cruising speed. Any waypoint that you set to the minimum possible speed is going to use your cruising speed. So essentially what I like to use the cruising speed for is when I'm not filming something, when I'm simply trying to take the drone from point A to point B, I'll use the cruising speed and set it to something relatively high so it doesn't take forever. Be very careful with your speed settings when you're doing this. Those can hurt you just as much as bad altitude settings, because say you're doing a waypoint mission that's going to take you out of signal range of your quad. If you have a speed setting set wrong in there, it might take way longer than it's supposed to get back to you. You know, if it's traveling 3 miles at 2 miles an hour, probably not going to make it on the battery, and it's probably going to end up in a tree somewhere. So be very aware and careful when you're using that, but that is what the cruising speed is intended for. So with that stuff out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and set up a basic waypoint mission. Again, I know this area is clear to take off in, so this is where I've chosen to put my first waypoint at 305 feet. I know that's way above and beyond anything I'm going to have to worry about in the area. So I want to come over here and kind of inspect these buildings and take a look at these buildings. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to drop a point of interest here. And this will basically automate the rotation of the quad and my camera to look at wherever I put it. So I'm just going to tap that button up there to turn that icon to blue, and I'm going to place a single point of interest right in the center of this area I want to look at. As you can see, my quad has shifted to automatically face this point of interest we have over here. I'm okay with that, to be honest, but I do need to bring us a bit closer. I'm going to keep us a fair distance out because it's at 300 feet and I don't want the gimbal to be pointed completely down the entire time. It doesn't really give a good video. So I'm going to just put my second waypoint out here. That's a fair distance from the point of interest and all of that. However, I know going from waypoint 1 to 2, I'm using my cruising speed, which is set to 18 miles per hour. I actually usually pump that up a bit higher. I'll do the max at 33.6. I don't really want to be going around this point of interest at 33 miles per hour. That's going to be way too fast. It's not going to look good. So we are going to left tap this waypoint 2, and we're going to manually adjust our speed here. We're going to set it to 5 miles per hour. Should be good for observing these buildings. We're going to scroll down and ensure that point of interest 1 is selected, because that's what we're trying to look at, and indeed it is. Here with the gimbal pitch, we have disabled focus, point of interest, and interpolate. Disabled is going to do nothing with the gimbal pitch. Focus point of interest will automatically calculate the amount of degrees the gimbal needs to move and stay at to observe your point of interest. Since we're trying to observe these houses, that's what we want to use in this scenario. Here I've set in waypoint 3, but I have an issue here. If you look here, you can see the heading of the quad is proceeding to the next waypoint, unlike this one where it's looking at the point of interest. I want it to look at it in both waypoints. So what do? I go over here to the settings tab, and up here at the top you see heading mode. That's currently set to towards next waypoint. We will put this to waypoint defined, and that's going to allow us to define the heading at every single waypoint it crosses. And now, as you can see, waypoint 2 is looking at the point of interest just as waypoint 3 is. So now I've laid out waypoint 3. So far we're going to take off over here. It's going to proceed to waypoint 2 and start looking at this point of interest. From there it's going to go along this yellow line here up to waypoint 3, keeping this point of interest focused the whole time. However, I noticed when I dropped waypoint 3, we're using our cruising speed. Remember, it's the speed heading away from the waypoint, not to it. Well, I want to put more waypoints in to observe these houses and sort of make a full diamond or circle around them. So I don't want cruising speed, that's way too fast. So once again, I'm going to set it to 5 miles per hour. And with that, we are going to have the quad come out here a little bit. Once again, checking the settings on waypoint 4. It's back to that cruising speed, so we need to get it back closer to 5 miles per hour. Kind of annoying that I'm having to do that for every waypoint, but it is what it is. And I think we're going to do 2 more waypoints for this mission. Waypoint number 5 will be right here, again looking at the point of interest. Now, I know after waypoint 5, I have a travel waypoint, and I know that my cruising speed is used heading away from waypoint 5, not to it. So, since it's a travel waypoint, not really concerned with focusing on anything, then I will go ahead and allow it to use that cruising speed, and I will bring waypoint 6 right back beside waypoint 1. So there you go, there's our very basic sample waypoint mission, and this is what we will be running. Keep in mind I've gotten in the habit of always placing my last waypoint by my first waypoint, just so I know the quad is going to come back to me when it's done with the waypoint mission. But with these new settings in here, that's not totally necessary. As you can see here, and as I covered earlier, you have finish actions. And instead of placing that last waypoint there, I could tell it to return home, or I could tell it to go back to the first waypoint, or I could tell it to run the waypoint mission in reverse. Any of those 3 options would bring it back to me without doing that. Just figured I'd mention it. It's kind of force of habit that I've gotten into to set it back there. Main thing is you want to make sure it returns back to close where the first waypoint is when you're done, because I know a lot of you guys out there are going to use this to go outside the signal range of your quad to record things. And you really want to make sure, be careful with your settings when you're leaving signal range and all that. You really want to make sure that it's going to get back to you. But with all of that said, I think this mission is ready. So I'm going to go over here and hit save waypoint mission. And we'll name this test tutorial. Hit OK, and now we can clear this out. And if we go to that folder icon, you see our waypoint mission is there. We hit load flight, and it's back exactly the way it was before. So with that said, I think I will see you guys outside and show you a bit more with this while it's running through the waypoint mission. Okay guys, so here we are outside again. I just got the Mavic and the controller booted up and the NVIDIA Shield and all of that stuff. I'd actually forgotten to mention something for all you Mavic Pro users. There's a very good feature built into the Mavic called Automatic Focus to Infinity, which really seems to be on by default. I haven't figured out if there's a way to turn it on or off, but I leave it on. And I gotta say, it works perfectly. I'm really surprised and kind of disappointed that DJI Go doesn't have something similar, but it is what it is. Anyways, I think we are ready to go. We've got good GPS, Select 11 satellite, 72% transmitter battery, full signal on the controller, and video downlink, and 100% quad battery. There is one thing I wanted to change that I know I had left set up on this. And I want to change this from the signal lost behavior to return to home in case something does happen, although honestly we're not going far at all, so I don't think it will. I'm going to go ahead and take off the quad. And we'll get this flight underway. Now, unfortunately, I just realized that I forgot my micro SD card for the Mavic. It's probably still sitting inside in my computer, but you guys will be able to see the FPV telemetry, and I think that's sufficient for the purposes of this video. So now that I've gotten it up in the air, you can start a waypoint mission with it on the ground and it will take off and attempt to travel to the waypoint, but I feel like that's a bad idea. I wouldn't do it. I try to sort of minimize any room for error that I can. But now that we've gotten it up in the air, I'm going to go ahead and hit this upper left mode change button, go over to Waypoints, and I'm going to go to Load, Test Tutorial, just like we did inside, and load this waypoint mission up. So now that we've got the waypoint mission loaded up, we can hit that play button down there, and it's going to go ahead and give us a pre-flight report. So we have an estimated mission time of 2 minutes, total distance of 1,292 feet, says at least one waypoint has a custom speed set. If signal is lost during the mission, the aircraft will continue the mission at the speed it was traveling at when it lost signal. So this is what I was talking about with being very careful about setting up your waypoints accurately, because you do not want it to be out there and start traveling at 2 miles per hour when you lose connection with it, because you're going to end up in a tree after it runs out of battery. Below that, if you scroll to the side through this, you can see all of our waypoints as well as the altitude they're at. So you can just go through and quickly check. But all of that's good, so I'm going to go ahead and hit go. It's uploading the waypoint mission. It says the mission is starting now. As you can see, the quad is ascending up to that 305 feet that we set in. And I am completely hands-off at this point. It is doing everything on its own. It's going to ascend up to that altitude and then move over to waypoint 1. Now it has arrived at waypoint 1. It's going to sort of start focusing the point of interest. It'll probably focus it a bit better once it hits waypoint 2 up here. And there it goes. So there are those houses we were trying to get a look at. It's going ahead and doing its little diamond around them. It slowed its speed down to 5 miles per hour as I set in before. And I wanted to show you guys something while it's doing this, and that's that icon up there that basically forces your map to north, or if you hit it like this, you can see now it's going to turn with my smart device. Unfortunately, there's some sort of compass issue going on with my smart device and it's not working very good right now, but if you have a smart device with a decent compass, that could be very useful for keeping your antennas trained on the quad and making sure you get as much range out of the signal as you possibly can. So as you can see, it's hit waypoint 5. I think pretty soon it'll be heading back home. Once it passes 5, it's going to speed up a lot and come back to waypoint 1. It is moving towards 5 right now. And now it's speeding up and coming back to waypoint 6, which is right beside waypoint 1. So now from this point forward, I could retake control. It's already dropped back into GPS mode. And I can retake control and land it. So I will go ahead and do so. We're going to go ahead and come back down and do a nice landing, which is always an auto landing on the Mavic Pro, it seems like. Not sure I like that. Kind of liked being able to land it myself. There you go, we are landed and the waypoint mission is done.